Sometimes I feel like a walking oxymoron, but I know it's all gonna make sense eventually, right? This that holy grail, I will prevail. Go find the scale and weigh it out between. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of N.Cast. I'm Prince Ayo.
And I'm your co-host, Brian.
Hey, and we're back. We're back, Brian. Once again. Let's just have open conversation first off. I think before air, I was just telling you a little bit of news, like Walmart's actually not enforcing face mask rules anymore for their, store brand or their whole company as a whole.
It's like a whole company-wide thing?
Yeah.
So, were they... Because not every state has a law that requires you to wear a face mask. Mm-hmm. So, where was Walmart like actually requiring people to wear face masks even in states that wasn't required by law? Or
I think it was majority of states that were requiring it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, there's too many incidents with their employees and customers, so they decided, we're gonna dead this face mask wearing stuff. You guys can do what you want.
You know why? It's probably because a lot of workers were just like, we're not getting paid enough for this.
Well, people were getting shot. I've seen articles of like people getting shot, and there's just a lot of issues with like the employees and customers, especially as like through the summer wearing face masks started to devolve, and people are not taking it as seriously as possible. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because I'm like, so where's this COVID thing going? Because everybody's like cautious, but at the same time want to live their best life, but cautious because of the second wave.
But it's that conflict that's like the reason why like we're not really like helping anything. It's the reason why like we're kind of like in this stagnated point where it's just like it's not getting any better. Yeah.
Everybody gives up. They're just like, if we die, we die. And
I don't remember if I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I have a really good friend in Korea, and I asked her, I'm like, so like, how have y'all been handling COVID? I was like, COVID? I mean, it was whatever. I'm like, it's like, oh damn.
It's just because like people are not gonna put their lives into halt over a pandemic virus. They're gonna live their best life. And
what's funny is like here in the U.S., like all the countries are like, no, you guys can't come here. You guys are sick.
Yeah, you can't come over here. But what happened in today's news or this past week?
Ooh man, like you know how this world works.
I got one. Twitter got hacked last week.
Are you talking about the verified thing? All the verified accounts?
Obama, Kanye West, Elon Musk, they all got hacked over a Bitcoin scheme for cryptocurrency.
that was actually kind of funny. I think Trump's Twitter got hacked.
Yeah.
Somebody said, wear a mask.
Trump didn't wear a mask back in March. I thought about it. March and April, he did not wear a mask at the press meetings.
No, he didn't.
And I just like thought about it because I was like, everybody was wearing masks and Trump was out here just like, hey, you need to wear a mask, but he didn't have a mask on himself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, the thing about the Twitter hack is because the verified accounts have such a big platform, they only had those tweet out for less than 20 minutes until they figured it out, right? But 20 minutes in different time zone areas is like hours, like depending on where you were from. So a lot of people across the entire world saw their tweets. Mm-hmm. And that's what made it like a problem because like they can't leave a tweet up past like 5 minutes without a lot of people noticing it.
Yeah, and I mean the big thing is it's like it wasn't like one like big account got hacked like specifically. It was like Twitter itself got hacked.
Yeah,
and like that to me is like wild. I'm just like whoa.
Yeah,
like,
Jack Dorsey was like, "This is a bad day." He tweeted it. He was like, "This is a bad day for Twitter," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is."
Yeah, if your whole platform gets hacked. Where somebody can like literally access all these different types of verified accounts with millions and millions of followers each. Just like, well, yeah. That's very bad.
Exactly.
That's very bad. That reminds me of that other thing. There's this one like I forget what the company was called, but like they have like this all my IT lingo kind of went out the window a couple years ago. But there's this company that provides like this. I forgot what it's called, but basically they power a lot of like sites and applications, and I guess their services crashed. And so because their services crashed, like half like
their servers, okay,
yeah, like so like half these websites and applications kind of went down with them. So that included like applications like Discord.
Oh wow.
It also included like video game servers too. Like League of Legends, all that stuff went down. And it was just like, well, what is happening? It was like down for like a little while.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was like at least like an hour.
The more downtime, the more damage.
Yeah.
So like that's the worst thing that can happen to a company's servers is the more downtime, the more damage to their files, everything that can be corrupted because they have to do reports after the hack, right? So it's like when they do their reports after the hack, they need to see how much downtime and how much information did the enemies get at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was not a good. It wasn't a good look for the internet last week. I'll say that.
It wasn't a good look. It wasn't talked about as much, but I was like aware of it. I'm like, bro, like even people are on Twitter. Like, and there's a lot of people on Twitter. Maybe the stock's not over $50, but like a lot of people do value Twitter, especially journalists.
I think the company was Cloudflare. I think that's what they're called.
Okay. I think that's a popular company.
Yeah. They're the ones that they went down and like I said, like half the internet went down with them. But yeah,
that's crazy. I think that's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about, and what we're going to talk about is branding.
I like that segue.
Yeah.
But yeah, today we are talking about branding both on a personal level and also on a business level. So obviously, I don't have that much experience branding a business. This guy does. So I'll kind of let him talk about that some more. Who wants to go first? Because I'll talk about more about personal.
All right, I'll go first about business, just only because we were talking about Twitter and all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
So
it's a natural segue.
I guess I'll give my definition of branding, or what I think branding is, to the best of my ability. It's basically the representation of the company. It can either be the symbol, the logo, the overall culture. That's what branding's all about, especially for a business corporation. So branding's important to businesses because obviously you want future clientels, already recurring clients to come back to your business, and you want them to recognize your business for what your business is known for. Either it's a product or a service. I'm branding right now. I have I have a e-commerce business called N.Packs, and obviously if you're always branding, people are going to recognize it over and over again. I think certain psychologists say, like, for someone to notice a brand, they have to see it at least minimum 7 times.
You said that's like a psychologist?
Yeah. Well, on marketing. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's how important branding is. And the thing about branding for businesses is probably, like, one of their biggest budgets. Does that make sense? Like, they pay a lot for marketing. Mm-hmm. Just to get their brand out there and get their brand known to like unseen eyes, already seen eyes, so they can get word of mouth. Branding is that important to businesses. But when you have instances what happened to like Twitter, that can harm your brand, you know? But Twitter has been around for at least like almost over 10 years, right? 10, 15 years?
Like, I want to say like 15?
Yeah, 10, 15 years. When you've been around that long and people actually like are okay with your brand, like using your brand, you can take that big of a hit, but you can always bounce back because it's not hitting the CEO with like some like sexual allegations or something like that. Like it was a mistakable problem that they could have fixed, like getting hacked, actually taking taking their cybersecurity seriously. But it happens. Businesses make mistakes, because businesses are run by humans. We have algorithms and we have AI, but as you can see, even Zuckerberg's like, oh, I'm a little nervous about this.
I remember that.
Yeah. Or Elon Musk was like, these people don't even know what they're getting into. Like, they still want to rely on people. So for businesses, branding is very important. It's about recognizing that brand and holding a certain reputation. Mm-hmm. And it's not just like the logo and the symbol, it's about the culture too.
Yeah.
When it comes to business, it's about the culture, because like you're seen throughout the public, you know what I'm saying? So they want to see what type of culture do you guys embrace as a business.
Yeah, like what what does this business like kind of represent? Like, what are their like underlying values and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, whenever you go on like a website and you check like their about page, you know, it always tells you like what they value most, and that actually.
And what's their mission too?
Yeah, their mission, like, and that actually like kind of matters because that really kind of, you know, that's like sort of like the direction they're going with their business and like how they value their customers and, you know, their goals in the future and stuff like that. So that stuff's really important.
Yeah, but that's my take on business branding. I feel like it's kind of like well known about branding, especially when we're in the digital age. And in the digital age, we have a second identity online, which is our digital persona, our digital identity.
Remember that episode?
Exactly. So it all lines up. Everything matters. Everything comes together on this podcast. But yeah, so when you have your digital persona online, this is where Brian's gonna actually talk about personal branding, because you're actually branding whether you're thinking of it as a joke, whether you're thinking it as like just a personal thing, or you're thinking that's a personal brand and you're trying to implement business behind it. We're going to age where branding is going to be pushed more and more as we're getting used to the internet, as we're getting used to having a digital persona. So, further ado, I'm going to let Brian take it off from here.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of reference some of the things we talked about in our previous episode about digital personas. So, back in that episode, we were just talking about the importance of like how you present yourself online, what you put out there, what you don't put out there, and what that says about you, and how you can kind of use it to your advantage if you're like looking for like jobs, or if you're like a content creator and like you're trying to like create like an identity for yourself. So that all still remains, that all kind of relates to branding. But today I want to talk about more about the process of like branding yourself in like context of you like looking for work, or you're like kind of like starting out as a small business. It's like just you, and you want to put yourself in the best light.
When you say looking for work, it's not just like looking for a job, it's also for like freelancing.
Yeah.
So overall, just like looking for work.
Looking for people to give you money.
Exactly.
We'll say that.
Yeah.
But and I don't want to undersell the importance of, you know, the internet in this case, but it's more than just how you present yourself online as well, because this also extends to how you present yourself in interviews. Like the way you present yourself in interviews, that's also part of your branding. Yep. The way that you craft your resume is also a part of your branding. Like when you're making your resume, you want to highlight your strengths, and you really want to pitch yourself in a way that makes you enticing for that person to hire you, or that person to give you money. You say.
Exactly.
And that a lot of that goes back to branding. Like you want to think of like crafting a resume or crafting a LinkedIn, or you know, making like your bio on your Twitter, making your cover story. Think of it as like you're kind of like sculpting. Thinking like you're trying to sculpt yourself, and you want to sculpt yourself in a way that you put yourself in the best light. You want to sculpt yourself to where you look attractive to other people, you know, for lack of a better.
If not attractive, at least compelling. You know,
compelling. It's what you're into.
It's just only because like not everybody's attractive, and they know they're not attractive, but they know
beauty's in the eyes of the beholder.
But you get what I'm saying? Like it's like, because you know certain people are realistic and like, no, I don't care about being attractive. I want to be seen as like my brand and being taken seriously. It doesn't matter about being cute. So it's more so like what you're about. What can you present to your audience?
Your character.
You know?
I mean, that goes into it as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's all part of the sculpture. It's all part of the sculpture.
That's very true.
But yeah, and as for, you know, the online thing, you know, we touched base on this back in the digital persona episode, but just to kind of reiterate some of that here, you know, with your like your LinkedIn, you know, highlighting your strengths just like your resume. But, you know, LinkedIn has a lot of cool features, like you have endorsements on LinkedIn, like people that you know that have seen your work will like, you know, write on your profiles like, hey, this person is the real deal. Like,
and that's your digital word of mouth.
Yeah, that is a digital word of mouth. You know, which
builds trust, and the whole part of the brand is building trust with your customers. So.
And, for the personal part is like building trust, for like your employer. Like, hey, like, I'm the real deal. Like, you want to hire me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want me just as much as, like, I want to work here. Or in some cases, you want me even more than I want to
work here. Yeah.
So you got to convince me to work for you. That's if you did a really, really good job in branding where people are reaching out to you. It's like, hey, come work for us.
And branding, just to piggyback off of what Brian's saying, branding actually like exposes your value. And then that's the principle of branding. It's to expose your value and to have your brand look enticing, have your brand look, pretty and compelling.
To piggyback off what you said earlier about the psychological study that like you see something 7 times and like sticks with you.
Yeah.
To apply to like personal branding, that actually can kind of make sense. If somebody like, especially if you have a really good word of mouth.
Yeah.
And like somebody like hears your name or sees your profile like multiple times, then like that kind of like lights a light bulb in their heads. Like, hey, maybe I should look into this person.
Yeah, because they keep coming back up. Mm-hmm. Like obviously they're getting certain attention, and going to attention in the digital space. Like even though we know money, like paper money, digital money, and stuff like that, attention is actually seen as currency too in the digital space, especially for a lot of businesses. Like the more attention you have, more recognition, more people are going to look into your brand. So that's why there's such a big budget for marketing in businesses, especially like in service industry. Say McDonald's, say Coca-Cola. Yeah, they've been around for over 100 years, but they still have a big budget for marketing. Mm-hmm. They still want to, stay in the game.
Yeah, they want to keep their name like in your head.
Yeah.
Like. Because, like, McDonald's is big enough to, even if they were to cease all, like, commercials, like, they would still generate enough revenue to stay in business, but they don't want to settle for that. They want to keep advertising. Exactly. They want to keep putting commercials on TV. They want to keep putting commercials on the radio. They want to keep putting ads on, like, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff because they want you to keep thinking about them every single day.
And that's a great point, what you just said earlier about McDonald's. McDonald's could not have a marketing budget for at least like 5-10 years and be good. Mm-hmm. But those 5 and 10 years, their competition is just going to exponentially grow a lot faster than they expected.
Yeah, and that's also a really, really interesting point that you just brought up here, and that's competition. Yeah. That's a whole nother aspect of branding. The reason why you want to brand yourself really well is because you have competition.
Exactly.
You want people to know that you are just as worthy for this job as some other person, or in some cases you want to let them know that you're even more worthy of some type of job than the other person. I guess for like the business branding thing, as a business you want to make it seem that you're just the superior choice compared to your competitors. So glad you brought that to the table.
Yeah, exactly. Not only appear, but like you also build trust with your customers too. And I know I keep saying trust, but that's really that's really what it is about branding. It's about trusting like the product or the service that you're investing in at the end of the day. Because obviously it's a form of trade. Obviously we want revenue for the business, but the customer is like, all right, this is the best choice that's going to help me with whatever I want from their service or product. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's very important when it comes to branding. It's about trust. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I think we can start going into our closing thoughts. I'll just start off. I did the business, so I'll start off with that. As we are going into the digital age at a new level, like from 2010 to 2020, it was like prehistoric times for the digital age. I can only say that because we've lived through that. But like from 2020 to 2030, I think it's just gonna be a whole different level, in my opinion. I'm making like
I just think COVID like kind of speeds it up too. Yeah, and, like more and more people like are just like staying at home
because they know they're taking work at home from like Zoom meetings and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's just gonna be a whole different level. Like I don't even know what to expect. I just know the growth is not gonna be the same as 2010 from 2020. It's just gonna be totally different by the time we get to like 2029. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which is very important to recognize because like now if you're ahead of the curve and recognize, all right, I have a certain brand, what do I want to build? what do I want to represent? What can I achieve in the next 3 years, 4 years in this 10-year gap where it's going to just be exponential growth in the digital space? I think it's important to consider. And it's very important for individuals because personal branding is so important. It is. It's so important. Even though, like, there's what, 2 billion people on the internet? They're trying to get to, it was 7 billion people in the world.
Something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people, well, this is a controversy because they're trying to put polls up in Africa and stuff like that, but because it related to, cancer and people were like protesting against it, it's getting harder. But once we get to at least like 4 billion people on the internet, it's going to be a problem because like there's going to be a lot of traffic. When I say problem, let me put a little context. Like, it's just going to be a lot more competition, So there's going to be a lot more traffic, a lot more exposure that we didn't even recognize. And it's just going to grow from there. I think as we recognize that, especially if you're like in America and you're watching this right now, you have the luxury of watching this, you're ahead of the curve at the end of the day. A lot of people are ahead of the curve. If you're able to watch this and like, or you're able to watch like other podcasts like this that are talking about branding and what you should be preparing for, you're ahead of the curve. Because there's a lot of people who don't have internet access right now. But when they do and they're that hungry, the sky's the limit. So, yeah, that's all I got to say for my closing thoughts.
Nice. Yeah, as for me, I mean, just kind of reiterate, what we've been kind of this keyword we have going here, and that's trust. Like that's such a good summary for this episode because at the end of the day, like you said, branding is just about establishing trust. It's about establishing sort of like a connection with somebody that you're trying to reach out to, and it makes your goal is to be in their head, to be on their mind, to like consider you for something. And as a business, that means checking out their product or checking out their service. As for personal branding, that's looking towards you as like somebody they want to hire or somebody they would recommend you to somebody else that could hire you. This network chain is ever growing, ever infinite.
That's very true.
But yeah, that's all I have to say on that, man.
I know I said in my closing thoughts, but I just thought about it. Authenticity, like being real. Especially when it comes to personal brand and business brand. Back in the day, a lot of businesses would hide their CEOs, CFOs. They'd hide behind closed doors, and you only knew the brand, but you didn't know who was behind the brand. So a lot of people were questionable about it. But because we have the digital space now, people want to know the brand and who's running the brand. I was talking to people outside the podcast, especially like your brother and stuff like that. Like he was explaining to me how like he cares about who's running the brand. Yeah, you know what I mean. And there's a lot of people who think about that.
Especially nowadays where we have things like Google search. It's like in order to like if you're like trying to, what I'm trying to say is that because it's so easy to look things up, if you can't find out who's like behind a company or like who's running the company, who's on like the board or anything like that,
you're skeptical.
That's actually kind of red flags.
Yes,
because that means like you're kind of purposely hiding it. Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
Well, that's the whole point of branding at the time. Like even though it's personal brand, but like for business brand, like a lot of CEOs have to come out to the public space because like it's about the trust. And they want to know who's running.
Now, so obviously, if you're like a publicly traded company, like that's a given. But even for like private companies, I think it's still worth their time, to be more open and have like established a one-to-one connection, even with the the executives of that company. Yeah.
It really does matter, and I wanted to put that in there because I was like, that's actually pretty important. A lot of people don't recognize this. Like even if you're just in business, like a lot of the board members of that business need to show their face, have a profile, to build that trust for the brand. And for personal brands, that's a given. Like obviously they're gonna want to know who you are. They don't just want to, like say for like artists. There's a lot of like digital artists out there that don't like show their face as much because they show their persona through their art. Yeah. But like they're starting to show their face more and more because it's like, what does this guy look like? Stuff like that. So it's really interesting. But yeah, that's what concludes our episode. You can follow us on N.Cast. It's on IG. It's N. _CAST. You can follow us on Twitter. There's N.Cast Podcast. You can also email us if you want. ncastpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and if you want to reach out to me, best way is by Twitter. That's Brian Lives Life, BrianLivesLife. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. I guess I should put out my Instagram, because I've been doing that for almost over 60 episodes. So my Instagram is p._nigma, and then my Twitter is Nigma Prince, NIGMAPRINCE. Yeah, so you can talk to me, y'all can DM me, or you can talk to me through Twitter. Yeah, all for the questions. I'm here for the smoke. Yeah, so till next time, Brian, sign us out.
안녕히계세요. 도마니요.
All right, peace, y'all. Depends on the vibe, though. It's such a vibe, can't be out here just getting by. It's such a vibe, can't